I should have known the smile was too wide, too rehearsed. The kind of grin that stretches skin, but not the heart behind it. "Happy birthday, Evelyn," she said, her tone sugary enough to make me sick. Amanda stood in front of me, holding out a small, neat box wrapped in black paper with a golden ribbon like something expensive but restrained. My son, Peter, watched her with that dull awe in his eyes again, like she was the best thing that ever happened to him. Maybe she is, in his world. Not in mine. I opened the box slowly. A leather belt, dark brown, polished, heavy. Thick silver buckle. For a second, I didn't understand. I stared at it like it would explain itself. Amanda giggled. "You always say your pants are falling down when you clean. Thought this might help keep things in place." Laughter. Peter laughed, too, rubbing the back of his neck like he wasn't sure why he was doing it. My hands trembled as I touched the belt. It felt cold, colder than it should have been, even in November. "Thank you," I whispered. Because what else do you say when your abuser hands you the weapon? Later that night, long after the cake was eaten and Ellie had gone to sleep, God bless her little heart, I stood in the kitchen finishing the dishes. My hands ached. These bones don't work like they used to. And I didn't move fast enough, apparently. Amanda's voice cut the silence. Sharp. Ice in every syllable. Can't even wash a plate without clattering like a damn wind chime. "I'm sorry." Before I could finish the sentence, she was there. The belt was in her hand. She'd taken it from the box again, unwrapped the golden ribbon carefully like a ritual. I tried to back away, but the kitchen is narrow and I'm not as quick as I once was. The first crack of leather hit my side. I screamed. She didn't care. She never does. "You want pity now?" she hissed. "You want to ruin my night after I gave you a gift? Ungrateful bitch." The second strike landed across my back. The third on my arm. One grazed my jaw, and I tasted blood. I didn't fight. I've learned it only makes her angrier. I collapsed against the cabinet, holding onto the sink like it could save me. My legs gave out. She kept going. The belt hissed through the air like a snake. I could hear Ellie's footsteps upstairs. The tiny creak of her floorboard. Amanda paused. One last hit. Hard, across my shoulder blade. Then silence. She dropped the belt at my feet. "I'll expect breakfast at 6. And if Peter asks, you slipped." Again. She walked out. Just like that. Like nothing happened. Like I was nothing. I didn't cry until the house was still. And when I did, I didn't sob. I just let the tears fall down quietly, like my body was leaking grief instead of feeling it. The belt was still on the floor. I crawled over, picked it up with shaky fingers, and hung it carefully on the back of my bedroom door. Not because I respected it, but because I knew I'd see it again. I used to have a room upstairs. Sunlight would pour in around 9 each morning and warm the wooden floor. I kept a small shelf of mystery novels by the window, the cheap kind with overused twists, but they made me feel clever when I guessed the killer early. That was before Amanda said I was taking up too much space. Before she moved me downstairs. The first time I saw the basement, I laughed. I thought it was a joke. Some cruel, bitter jab. But Amanda was already dragging my suitcase down the stairs, Peter trailing behind her like a ghost with no voice. "It's quieter down here," she'd said. "You won't wake Ellie up when you cough all night. There's no insulation down here. The cement walls sweat when it rains. One old lamp flickers near the boiler, and the only furniture is a metal cot with a thin mattress that sinks in the middle like a mouth waiting to swallow me." But Peter said nothing. He watched as I sat on the edge of that cot, said goodnight, closed the door. I heard the lock click. That was the first time. I keep track of time by the sounds above me. Amanda's heels clicking across the kitchen tiles. Ellie's cartoons in the morning. Peter's car pulling out of the driveway at 8:45. Then, silence. The kind of silence that doesn't mean peace, but danger. Because silence means she's thinking. And when Amanda's thinking, I usually pay for it. 2 nights, after the belt, I was scrubbing the kitchen floor. Not because I wanted to. Because Amanda said the smell of old woman made her nauseous. My knees cracked as I worked. I must have paused too long, or maybe I sighed too loud. I never really know the trigger. But she was there again, suddenly, like a shadow in human form. You enjoy making me look like the villain, don't you? No, Amanda. I slap. Open hand, straight across my cheek. It wasn't the belt this time. It was worse. It was skin on skin, and she wanted me to feel it. She crouched beside me. Let's get something clear. This house? Not yours. This family? Not yours. You're just an old burden waiting to drop dead. So keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, and maybe, just maybe, I won't make your granddaughter hate you. I looked at the tiles. I didn't cry. Not in front of her. She stood, wiped her hand on a kitchen towel like she'd touched something dirty, and walked off. That night, I found the cot colder than usual. I curled into myself. My hip ached. My back throbbed where the belt left its echo. I stared at the ceiling and imagined what life would be like if I were brave. If I were younger. If I mattered. Somewhere upstairs, Ellie giggled in her sleep. That's why I stay. Because I'm not ready to leave her behind in this house full of silence and fury. Not yet. I used to have beautiful hands. They weren't delicate, not like in the magazines, but they were strong. Capable. The kind of hands that raised a boy, stitched up scraped knees, flipped pancakes every Sunday, and held trembling fingers during long nights of grief. Now they shake when I reach for spoons. It was just a spoon. That's all it took. Amanda had made dinner, burnt chicken and overcooked peas. Her face was tight from whatever argument she'd had with Peter before I came upstairs, and I knew the moment I saw her clenched jaw, something was going to happen. But I didn't expect it would be over a spoon. I was trying to help, just setting the table. Ellie was watching her cartoons in the living room, and I thought maybe, just maybe, we'd get through one evening without Amanda cracking open her cruelty like it was fine china. I reached for a spoon. It slipped. The clatter was sharp, echoing like a gunshot in the kitchen. Amanda turned slowly. Too slowly. Her eyes already dark with it. Do you think I'm running a fucking nursing home here? She hissed. I'm sorry, she moved fast. The pot, the one still warm from the peas, was in her hand before I could blink. And then it wasn't. It was flying through the air. It hit the floor just inches from my feet, hot water splashing over the top. Some of it reached my wrist. I gasped as pain bloomed across my skin like fire beneath my veins. Amanda didn't flinch. You're so useless, Evelyn. You can't even hold a spoon. Maybe next time, I should feed you like a baby. Peter walked in right then. I thought maybe he'd see it, smell the sharp sting of burned skin, hear the rage in her voice. But Amanda turned, smiled sweetly, and said, Your mom had a little accident. Can you grab the ointment? He nodded, said nothing. He's good at that. Later, I sat on the edge of the basement cot, holding ice against my wrist with shaking fingers. I wanted to scream. Not from pain, but from the way no one sees me anymore. I'm right here in this house, breathing and bruising, but I've become invisible. And yet, Ellie came. She always knows when something's wrong, like a soft soul in a house full of sharp edges. She tiptoed into the basement with her flashlight and sat beside me without a word. I didn't try to hide my wrist. I didn't have the strength. Did Mommy hurt you again? She asked quietly. I looked away. No, baby. I'm just clumsy. She looked at the red mark. Then at me. You were never clumsy when you took care of me. I think I stopped breathing. I don't know how long we sat there in the dark, but for the first time in weeks, the air felt a little less heavy. She put her little hand in mine, the hand I used to hold when she couldn't fall asleep. And for a second, I wasn't invisible. I was someone again, even if just for her. Some days, it feels like the house is trying to bury me. The ceiling presses lower. The walls breathe closer. The stairs above creak like they're laughing at how small I've become. I've learned not to cry where Amanda can hear. But the basement? It holds my tears in its silence. Like it understands. Tonight, after Ellie crept back upstairs, after Peter locked himself in his study pretending he didn't know his mother was wounded and hiding in a cement grave, I did something I haven't done in years. I wrote to James. Not for real. He's been gone 8 years this spring. But I wrote him a letter in my shaky, traitorous handwriting. I needed someone to speak to who wouldn't roll their eyes, wouldn't raise a hand, wouldn't ask me why I always make Amanda angry. Dear James, it's getting worse. She doesn't even pretend anymore. I think she hates me in a way I can't even understand. There's something inside her cold, empty. She could smile while holding a knife and mean both. Peter won't see it. Maybe he can't. Maybe that's my fault. I raised him to avoid conflict, and now, here we are. I wish you were here. God, I need you here. Just for one night. Just to say, this is not your fault. Just to hold my hand and remind me I'm not imagining the cruelty in her eyes. I miss you. So much. Love, Evelyn. I folded the letter slowly, hands still trembling. Then I pulled up the rug under the cot and used the jagged edge of an old screwdriver to loosen a floorboard. Just one, the third one from the wall. It lifted like a breath held too long. Inside the dark space below, I laid the letter carefully. My 4th letter this month. I've hidden them all there in case someone ever comes looking. In case my story matters one day. Because if I don't make it through this, I want the truth to survive, even if I don't. The next morning, Amanda greeted me with a forced smile and a bruising hand on my shoulder as she handed me a grocery list. Be quick, she snapped. And don't embarrass us like last time. I said nothing, just nodded. That's the trick, silence. It's my only armor now. She doesn't know what I wrote. She doesn't know about the letters. She doesn't know I still have a voice, even if it's buried under the floor. One day, someone might read them. And maybe then, she won't be the only one believed. I flinched when Peter brushed past me in the hallway. It wasn't the touch that scared me, it was how gentle it was. How different from hers. His hand accidentally grazed my shoulder, and I nearly jumped out of my skin, like a rabbit waiting for the snap of the trap. He looked confused. You okay, Mom? I nodded. I always nod, because if I tell the truth, it breaks things. And no one in this house wants things broken unless Amanda's the one doing it. The blouse I wore today was long-sleeved, pale blue, soft cotton. It hid the blooming bruise on my upper arm, the one shaped like her grip. The one she left last night when I didn't fold the towels the way she likes. Peter didn't notice. He never does. And I wonder, sometimes, what it would take for him to see me. Not the version Amanda paints fragile, fussy, losing her mind, but me. Evelyn. His mother. The woman who once walked through storms to pick him up from school when he forgot his umbrella. The woman who kissed his scraped knees and made up stories when he couldn't sleep. Does he remember that woman? Or has she been replaced, piece by piece, by the version Amanda built? Weak, burdensome, senile? When I served dinner, Amanda made a show of thanking me. You're such a help, Evelyn, she said sweetly, loud enough for Peter to hear. I nodded, but my hand trembled when I set the pot down. It slipped not far, just a clatter of metal on ceramic. Her eyes darkened. Not here, I thought. Not in front of him. Please. But she just smiled. Later, after the dishes were washed and the girl was in bed, she followed me down into the basement. I didn't even get to sit before her hand caught my jaw, fingers digging into bone. Next time, she whispered, I won't be so polite. I tasted blood again. Down here, I keep a mirror, cracked, but enough to see the woman I used to be. Tonight, I looked into it and barely recognized myself. The bruise under my jaw glowed purple beneath the skin. A blood vessel had burst in my eye. I looked like I belonged in some war documentary, not a grandmother's room. But I didn't cry. Not tonight. Instead, I unbuttoned the blouse, folded it carefully, and pressed it against my chest like armor. Because if I can't wear my strength outside anymore, I'll carry it quietly, beneath the surface. They don't see it, but I'm still here. Children see everything, even the things we try so hard to hide. I used to believe I was protecting Ellie, that if I stayed quiet, if I endured, she would stay safe in the soft little world only children can live in. But the truth is, she sees more than I ever meant her to. She sees me. And worse, she sees her. This morning, I was folding laundry on the living room couch when I felt her eyes on me. Ellie sat cross-legged on the floor, her crayons scattered like candy, paper resting on a little wooden tray. Her tongue peeked out as she colored with intense focus. "What are you drawing, sweetheart?" I asked, keeping my voice light, careful not to let the ache in my ribs shape the words. Amanda had thrown a book at me last night. Hardcover. Spine first. Ellie held up the paper. It was a house. A 2-story drawing in bright crayon, windows, trees, even the swing in the backyard. But what chilled me was the way she'd drawn me. A stick figure with a gray puff of hair, standing behind a door. A locked door. And lines across my arms. Red. Jagged. She looked at me with eyes too old for 10. "Are those scratches?" I asked gently, trying not to show my fear. She shrugged. "They're your hurts." I couldn't speak. "And that's Mommy," she added, pointing to a smiling stick woman upstairs. But I didn't know how to draw her yelling. She said it like she was describing the weather. Like it was normal. Like pain and silence and locked doors were just part of the landscape of her childhood. That night, Amanda found the drawing on the fridge. Ellie had proudly taped it up when no one was looking. I heard the rip before I heard the footsteps, fast, sharp, like nails on tile. "You little manipulator," Amanda hissed, grabbing me by the wrist and yanking me from the basement stairs. "Telling her stories now? Teaching her to see you as a victim?" I gasped. She drew it herself. I didn't say a word. Amanda's eyes burned. "You don't have to say anything. You infect this house with your pathetic presence. Don't think I won't take her from you. You're just a shadow, Evelyn. Shadows don't get rights." Then she shoved me backward. I stumbled down the last 2 steps, the metal railing catching my side as I hit the bottom. Ellie wasn't supposed to see, but she had. She stood at the top of the stairs. Silent. Wide-eyed. Amanda turned and barked, "Go to bed." But Ellie didn't move. Her fists clenched at her sides. And just before Amanda slammed the basement door shut, I heard the tiniest whisper slip from Ellie's lips. "I'm not blind." I wept after that. Not from pain. Not from fear. But because someone finally said it. In this house of locked doors and hidden bruises, someone finally saw me. Someone believed. And that someone was my granddaughter. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and false comfort, like bleach and plastic flowers. Amanda had insisted on bringing me to the doctor after Peter noticed the bruises on my wrist. She needed a cover story. She always does. So she told him I lost balance and fell against the stair railing. That part was true, at least, but not the way she told it. Peter drove. Amanda sat beside me in the back seat, hand resting lightly on my shoulder the whole ride. A hand that looked gentle to anyone watching, but I could feel the pressure. The threat underneath the quiet. "Say anything stupid," she whispered in my ear when we pulled into the parking lot, "and I'll make sure Ellie never sees you again." The doctor's office was warm and sterile. A younger woman this time, Dr. Collins. Her voice was soft, her hands kind. She touched my wrist gently, examined the purple and yellow blooming along my skin. "You said you fell?" she asked. I nodded. My throat tightened like a fist. "Scream, Evelyn. Tell her. Just say it." But I couldn't. My mouth wouldn't open. Fear had built a home in my chest, and it whispered lies into my lungs. Amanda sat just behind me, smiling. Innocent. Practiced. Dr. Collins sighed. "You've had quite a few of these recently. Any dizziness? Memory issues?" "No," I croaked. She looked at me, really looked. And for a moment, I thought she knew. I thought maybe this was it. My chance. Would you like to speak alone? She asked carefully. I froze. My eyes darted to Amanda. She gave the smallest shake of her head. Barely perceptible. But enough. No, I said. It's fine. On the way home, Amanda hummed to the radio like she hadn't just watched me shrink again into someone I barely recognize. She leaned close as Peter stopped for gas and whispered, "You're better when you're silent. You look smarter that way." That night, I stared at my reflection in the basement mirror. I looked old. Not just aged. Old. Tired. Wilted. Like a flower pressed too long between pages, the color drained out by time and weight. I picked up my pen, and I wrote to James again. Dear James, I had a chance today. A real one. I could have said something. I wanted to, but I was afraid. Afraid of what she'd do to Ellie. Afraid she'd follow through on the threats she breathes into my bones every night. I'm sorry. You always said I was the brave one. Maybe I lost that part of me when you died. Or maybe I'm just too tired to fight anymore. But I'm still here. And I'm still watching over our granddaughter. And I will find a way. I promise. Love, Evelyn. I folded the letter. Pulled up the third floorboard again. Placed it among the others. My little graveyard of truths. Waiting to be found. There was a time when birthdays meant something. I used to bake from scratch, never from a box. Chocolate, mostly. James always wanted vanilla, but Peter, even as a little boy, would climb onto the counter and whisper chocolate with strawberry jam in the middle, like it was a precious secret. Now, birthdays are landmines. Today was Amanda's. I spent the whole day preparing. She insisted on a cake, her recipe, her frosting, her decorations. I stood in the kitchen for hours, elbows deep in batter, back aching, afraid the sponge might be too dense or the edges too dark. Amanda doesn't tolerate mistakes. Peter was at work. Ellie was at school. It was just us. She hovered, watching me like a cat watches a bird, quiet, alert, waiting. I want it perfect, she said without looking up from her phone. You screw it up, I swear to God. Evelyn. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. The bruise still hidden on my ribs was punctuation enough. The cake came out decent. The frosting, smooth. Strawberries placed carefully in concentric circles. The candles, pink, glittery, 12 of them for no reason other than her twisted sense of symbolism. When Peter came home, he kissed her cheek and told me, "Looks amazing, Mom." Amanda beamed. She tries her best. But later, after dinner, after the candle wish, after Ellie was asleep, I stood at the sink rinsing cake crumbs off the plates when she appeared behind me. Silent. I didn't turn around. I felt her breath before I heard her voice. Low. Soft. Like sugar wrapped around razor wire. You know what you forgot? My heart stumbled. I followed your recipe. I did everything. You forgot the almond extract. My mouth opened, but nothing came. You think I don't notice, but I do. You always ruin things. And you made me look like a fool in front of Peter. I turned, wiping my hands on the dish towel. I'm sorry, I whispered. Her smile curled like smoke. And then she grabbed the cake knife. She didn't stab. She wasn't that sloppy. She pressed the flat edge against my arm, cold metal sliding along skin, and pushed until it bit just enough. Next time, she said, you won't forget. Will you? I stared at her, silent, tears burning but refusing to fall. Say it, she hissed. I won't forget, I croaked. She let the knife drop to the sink and walked away, humming Happy Birthday under her breath. In the basement, I sat holding my arm, a red line blooming across it like a cruel kiss. It would fade, I knew, like the others, but my rage wouldn't. For the first time, I didn't feel just afraid. I felt angry. Not the kind that shouts. The kind that sharpens. Like a blade learning how to breathe. I only had 3 sweaters left. The blue one James bought me on our 30th anniversary, soft as memory, worn thin at the elbows. The beige one with the missing button that, Ellie said, made me look like a forest grandma. And the maroon one I kept at the foot of my cot, my favorite, because it was warm enough to sleep in when the basement turned to stone at night. It's gone now. Amanda burned it. It started with a smile, like most of her cruelty does. I washed your sweater for you, she said when I came up to make Ellie's lunch. Her voice syrupy. Innocent. My stomach dropped. I hadn't asked her to touch it. I never let her near my clothes. They're the only things in this house that still belong to me. I don't remember leaving it in the laundry, I said carefully. She grinned. It slipped in. Must have been an accident. I walked outside to the back patio where the laundry line hangs, and there it was. My maroon sweater. A crumpled, blackened ruin inside the fire pit. Still smoldering. Ash around it like a funeral shroud. Ellie was watching from the porch swing. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Her little face was pale, lips pressed together, eyes fixed on the burnt remains of something that used to be mine. That night, Peter asked why I was wearing a sweatshirt of Amanda's. She loaned it to me, I muttered. He smiled. See? I knew you two would start getting along eventually. Amanda laughed softly beside him. It sounded like victory. I sat up for hours that night in the basement, staring at the cold wall, still wearing the scratchy sweatshirt that smelled like her perfume, like poison and lies. And I started to remember things I hadn't let myself remember in years. The day Peter was born, how I had to hold James's hand so tight I left crescent moons in his palm. The way Peter once called me his safe person. The time I stayed up 4 straight nights when he had pneumonia, just watching his chest rise and fall. I raised a man who now walks past me like I'm wallpaper. And I wondered, how many pieces of me do I have to lose before someone notices I'm gone? Later that night, Ellie slipped downstairs again. She tiptoed in, holding a folded sheet of paper. I drew you a new sweater, she whispered, so you wouldn't be sad. She handed it to me. A crayon drawing of me, in a purple sweater with hearts on the sleeves. One arm holding a teacup, the other around Ellie. I love it, I said. She looked up at me with those big, breaking eyes. When I'm big, I'll take you away from here. I wanted to tell her she didn't have to carry that. But I let her say it, and I let myself believe it, even just for a moment. Because sometimes a child's promise is the only thing stronger than despair. The window in the basement doesn't open. It used to once. Years ago, when this house still belonged to me and the world still made sense. But Peter sealed it shut when they remodeled, for safety, he said. Now, it's a pane of glass with no breath. Just a view of the hedges, the back fence, the sky I can't touch. I stare at it every morning. Some days I imagine myself pushing through, even though I know I can't. I dream of the cold air on my face, the weightlessness of outside, where nobody tells me what I'm allowed to wear, eat, say, or feel. But this house, this cage, is airtight. And Amanda? She's the one holding the key. 2 days ago, she brought me a gift. A necklace. Delicate. Silver. Too pretty for someone like me. She clipped it around my neck herself, her hands brushing the nape of my neck too long, too deliberately. There, she said, stepping back with a smile. Now you look less depressing. I touched the chain, confused. The clasp was strange. Too tight. Later that night, I realized why. It wasn't a necklace. It was a tracking tag, the kind they give dementia patients in care homes. Discreet. Hidden in pretty metal. She was tagging me like an animal. I confronted her. I know I shouldn't have, but something inside me cracked. Maybe it was the memory of that sweater. Maybe it was the look in Ellie's eyes, or maybe it was the heat of knowing that even my neck didn't belong to me anymore. I found her in the kitchen, humming, pouring wine. What is this? I held up the necklace. Her eyes sparkled with cold amusement. A gift. You think I'm too far gone to notice you're tracking me? She sipped her wine. I think you're too far gone to do anything about it. Then, softly, like a lullaby, I could make a few calls tomorrow. Tell a doctor you wandered off again. Talk about how forgetful you've been. How paranoid. You'd be gone before Peter got home from work. Locked in a real home this time. Think about that before you raise your voice in my kitchen. I backed down. Not because she was right, but because she's willing. That's the most dangerous kind of abuser, the ones who don't lose control, the ones who plan it down to the word, the ones who smile while they destroy you. That night, I wrote another letter to James. Then I did something new. I taped it to the inside of the basement window. The seal was tight, no air, no freedom. But there was still light. And paper taped to glass can still be seen. Someday, maybe Ellie will notice it. Maybe Peter. Maybe someone walking past will catch the strange silhouette pressed against the glass and wonder what it says. Maybe, even if my voice is gone, the truth won't stay buried. Ellie left her diary open. She didn't mean to. I know that. She's careful, more careful than any 10-year-old should ever have to be. But this morning, while I was folding the laundry in her room, I saw it lying beside her pillow, one page slightly curled like it was whispering, "Look." I knew I shouldn't. But I did. And now, I can't forget what I saw. She'd drawn us. Me in my blue blouse, the one Amanda says makes me look like a nursing home leftover. Ellie had colored it carefully, using 2 shades to make it look soft. My hair was a puff of gray. My hands were shaking. And Amanda? Amanda was a black figure. No face, just a mouth. Big. Open. Screaming. Her arms were long and sharp, like claws, and the lines around me were red. Thick red scribbles that wrapped around my arms and my chest. Under the picture, in careful print, she wrote, "She said Grandma fell again." But I saw the bruise before dinner. And I saw her smile when Grandma cried. I don't think she's scared of Grandma. I think Grandma is scared of her. My hands went numb. This house is full of lies. Amanda feeds them to Peter, to the neighbors, to herself. This idea that I am the problem, that I'm the one unraveling. But Ellie, my sweet girl, she sees the stitches being ripped out. And she's old enough now to draw it, to write it, to remember it. I didn't say anything when Ellie came home from school. I simply kissed her forehead longer than usual. She leaned into it, like she understood something had passed between us, something we couldn't speak aloud but both carried in our chests. That night, Amanda found me humming while I brushed Ellie's hair. I knew it would enrage her. And it did. Downstairs. Now, I went, quiet as always. This time, she didn't hit. She laughed. "I saw you looking at her little diary," she said. "So what? You think anyone's going to believe a child over me?" Her voice dipped into a taunt. "You should have taught her to lie better. Just like you did with Peter." That broke something in me. I turned to her, really looked at her, and whispered, "She already lies better than you. The difference is, she's lying to survive." She didn't like that. But for once, she didn't touch me. Maybe because she knew, deep down, Ellie was watching again. Even in the silence. Even behind a closed door. Later, I wrote, "Dear James, she knows. Our granddaughter knows. She sees the monster behind the smile. And though she's still small, her truth is strong. Maybe stronger than mine. Maybe she'll be the one who pulls us both out of this. I just have to hold on. For her. For me. For what's left of the woman you loved. Love, Evelyn." Then I slid the letter under the floorboard. One more heartbeat buried in the dark, waiting to be heard. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was dusting the hallway shelf when I heard Amanda's voice from the kitchen, low, sharp, almost hissing. I should have walked away. I should have reminded myself that curiosity gets punished in this house. But something about her tone made my legs still. She was on the phone. I couldn't hear who was on the other end, but her words came fast, like venom bubbling to the surface. "No, she's still here. Yeah, the old witch won't die." A pause. "He's too soft. Still thinks she's confused, not broken. But don't worry, the insurance policy's active. She signed it. Dumb cow didn't even read it. Another pause. A laugh. Soon. A fall down the stairs. Maybe another stroke. It won't look suspicious, she's old. She's useless. I'm just doing everyone a favor. I couldn't breathe. The shelf in my hand trembled. One of Peter's childhood photos rattled in its frame. I reached out to steady it, but my fingers were ice. She was planning something. Not just abuse. Not just humiliation. She was planning to erase me. And worse, she'd already set the trap. I crept back to the basement, every step weighted with a new kind of fear. I sat on the cot, heart pounding, and tried to think clearly. Insurance policy. I remembered it now. Months ago, Amanda had asked me to sign something for health records. I didn't even glance at it. She was rushing me, Peter was watching, and I was so exhausted. God help me. She was going to kill me for a payout. I didn't cry. I wanted to. But there was something else rising in me now, hotter than fear. Survival. This wasn't just cruelty anymore. This wasn't just bruises and insults and threats whispered like lullabies. This was murder waiting for the right day. That night, I hid the photo of James and me inside the pillowcase. I packed a small plastic bag, socks, my wedding ring, 2 letters from the floorboard. If something happened, I didn't want my story buried with me. Then I wrote another letter. This one wasn't for James. It was for Ellie. Sweetheart, if you find this, it means something has happened. I don't want to scare you, but you need to know you were always right. You saw what no one else did. And that makes you brave. If I'm not here one day, you have to speak. Tell the truth. Tell your daddy. Show him this letter. Keep your drawings. Keep your voice. It's stronger than you know. You are not alone. You never were. I love you. Forever. Grandma, I folded the paper carefully, heart trembling. And I didn't put this one under the floorboard. I slid it into the lining of her school backpack, behind the stitched unicorn and the pencil pouch. One truth, tucked into the fabric of her world. I didn't close my eyes that night. Not once. I lay there on the narrow cot, arms crossed over my chest like a body waiting to be buried, listening to the sounds above. Amanda's footsteps pacing, the kitchen tap dripping, the refrigerator humming like it didn't know something evil was alive just down the stairs. Sleep was dangerous now. If I closed my eyes, I might not open them again. I kept imagining it. How easy it would be. Just a nudge down the steps. A pillow over my face. A pill slipped into the weak tea she offers when she's pretending to care. She wouldn't scream. She wouldn't panic. She'd cry at the funeral and wear blue because Peter always said it was his favorite on her. And everyone would nod. She took such good care of Evelyn. She was like a daughter to her. She must be devastated. I would die invisible. Around 2 a.m., I got up and started pacing, quietly barefoot, counting steps like it would keep me sane. I paused near the window again, pressed my fingers to the cold glass, and I whispered to the night, "Please, let someone see me." I found an old photo in a box behind the water heater. It was Peter as a baby, naked except for a diaper, sitting on James's lap, both of them laughing like the world had never known pain. I held it like it was still warm. Then I turned it over. On the back, in James's handwriting, "He looks like you when he cries, and like me when he laughs." It broke something in me. Not in the way Amanda wanted. Not in the way that makes you small and weak. It broke the part that believed I had nothing left. Because I do. I have Ellie. I have the truth. And now I have a fire. At dawn, I climbed up the stairs slowly, carefully, and made tea like I always do. Amanda walked into the kitchen, eyes still half asleep. She stopped when she saw me standing at the stove, completely composed. "You're up early," she said. "I didn't sleep," I replied. She narrowed her eyes. "Everything okay?" I looked at her. Really looked. And I smiled. "It will be." I didn't have a plan yet, but something had shifted. For the first time in years, I felt something Amanda had always tried to strangle in me. Hope. Amanda believes control lives in small things. The way she folds napkins and expects them perfect. The way she rearranges the cutlery drawer and dares me to forget. The way she counts the plates after I wash them, not to make sure they're clean, but to make sure I haven't broken anything again. So when I dropped that plate tonight, it wasn't just porcelain that shattered. It was the illusion. And something inside me knew. This one would cost. It was just after dinner. Ellie had gone to her room. Peter was still scrolling on his phone in the living room. Amanda handed me the stack of dishes, then walked away, not saying a word. She didn't need to. I was drying the last plate when my hand slipped. It spun out of the towel, hit the edge of the sink, and crashed to the tile in 1,000 sharp pieces. I froze. The silence after was louder than the noise. Amanda came in slow, like a hunter. Not angry. Worse. Smiling. She crouched beside the shards and picked one up, a jagged white triangle the size of her palm. "Clumsy, Evelyn," she said softly. "What are we going to do with you?" She turned the shard over in her hand, staring at it like she was weighing her options. Peter looked up from the couch. "Everything okay?" he called lazily. Amanda didn't turn. She just broke another one. "It's fine. I'll handle it." Handle it. Like I was a situation, not a person. That night, while I washed the rest of the dishes with shaking hands, she stood behind me, breathing slow and even. "You know," she whispered, "you're not as dumb as you pretend to be." "That insurance policy? You were smart enough to sign it. Smart enough to make it all legal." She leaned in, voice icy and smooth. "You're not leaving this house, Evelyn. Not alive." I didn't reply, but I made a decision. Right there. Right in the quiet drip of the faucet, surrounded by shattered ceramic and years of bruises and boiling silence. I wouldn't die here. Not in this kitchen. Not under this roof. Not at her hands. That night, I didn't write to James. I wrote to a lawyer. An old friend of his. Someone from the past. I didn't even know if he was alive, but I had the address tucked in my Bible. I wrote the truth, page by page, carefully, honestly. No begging. Just facts. Photos of bruises. Dates. The overheard phone call. The tracking device. The plate. I sealed the envelope. I didn't sign it. Not yet. I just held it. Because tomorrow, I'd find a way to send it. And Amanda? She could smile all she wanted. But something was changing. Something she couldn't control. The hardest part wasn't writing the letter. It was walking out the door with it. Amanda watches everything. She doesn't need cameras, her eyes are sharper than glass, and her instincts are that of a woman who's always feared exposure. I knew if I made one wrong move, one extra step, she'd smell it. But I had one thing on my side: routine. Every Thursday, Amanda sends me to the corner shop. It's only 3 blocks, but it's the only time I'm allowed outside alone if I promise to wear the necklace and stick to the list. Eggs, crackers, cheese, nothing more. So I tucked the envelope under the egg carton, slid it in like a secret prayer. If anyone asked, I'd say it was a recipe. If Amanda checked the bag, and she often did, she'd find nothing. Because by then, it would be gone. He was there when I arrived. Not the postman. A man with a kind face. Tall, gray at the temples. In line behind me, holding nothing but a parcel and a patient smile. And something in me said, ask him. So I turned. Sir, would you be willing to post something for me? He blinked, surprised. Sorry, I'm not supposed to be sending mail, I said gently. But it's important. His smile faded into something else concern. Maybe? He looked at the envelope, then at me. He nodded. Of course. I handed it over, heart pounding. Please don't open it. Just send it as soon as you can. It could save my life. His face changed. He stood straighter. I will, he said. And I believed him. That night, Amanda checked the grocery bag. As always. She dug through the eggs, lifted the cheese, and even unwrapped the crackers. But she found nothing. She looked at me with suspicion, that sharp glint in her eye. You forgot the tea. I lowered my head. I'm sorry. She let out a slow breath, too calm. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But I didn't care. Because the envelope was gone. And somewhere out there, maybe in a mailbox, maybe already on a desk, my story had begun to move. Later that night, Ellie crept downstairs again. This time she didn't bring a drawing. She brought me a flashlight. Tiny, pink. One she kept by her bed for storms. I want you to keep this, she whispered. So, if the power goes out, or if you need to see in the dark. I took it from her gently. I don't need light, I whispered back. I have you. 3 days passed. No word. No sign. Amanda grew quieter, more watchful. She hovered when I cooked, lingered near the stairs, and started locking the door to the porch again, though she didn't say why. But she knew something was wrong. She could feel it, the way predators feel shifting air before a storm. I, too, felt it. And then he came. It was a Saturday morning. Peter was outside mowing the lawn, Ellie was watching cartoons, and Amanda had just handed me a stack of laundry to fold when the doorbell rang. She froze. Because no one visits unannounced. Not here. Not anymore. I turned to answer it, but she shoved past me, almost snarling, "Stay back." I hovered near the hallway archway, heart thudding. I couldn't see the door, but I heard it open, and then, "Hello, I'm looking for Evelyn Harper." A man's voice. Steady, gentle, familiar in the way that made my knees lock. Amanda's reply was instant, sharp. "There's no one here by that name." A pause. Then, calm as the sea before a tidal wave. That's strange. Because I mailed something here with her name on it. And I'm an attorney. So, I'd appreciate if you didn't lie to me again. The silence after that was long. Then came the click, Amanda's forced smile slipping into her tone. "Ah, you must be talking about my mother-in-law. Then I'd like to speak with her. She's resting. She's elderly. Not always, I'll wait." I stepped into the hallway. Amanda turned to glare at me, fury blooming under her skin. But it was too late. He saw me. His face, older, lined, kind, broke into something between heartbreak and recognition. "Mrs. Harper?" I nodded slowly. "Do you remember me? I'm Thomas Whitmore, James's old friend." The lawyer. I nearly collapsed. But I didn't. I stepped forward. "I remember. Thank you for coming." Amanda tried to cut in. "We don't need," but Thomas held up a hand, firm. "I've read her letters. I've seen the photos. I've already contacted authorities." He looked me in the eye. "You're not alone anymore." Amanda didn't speak. For the first time, she had no script. No clever lie. No control. Peter came in from outside moments later, sweat on his brow, puzzled. "What's going on?" Thomas answered before anyone else could. "Your mother needs to leave this house. Today. And I strongly suggest you let her." Peter turned to Amanda, and I saw it. Doubt. Fear. Not of me, but of the cracks finally showing in her mask. I looked at Ellie, standing at the top of the stairs, gripping the railing, watching everything unfold. And I gave her the smallest nod. A signal. We were almost out. Thomas didn't leave. Not that day. He stayed. He stood in our living room like a shield between Amanda's poison and my shaking hands and spoke with such quiet authority that even Peter fell silent. "I've filed an emergency protective order," he said. Amanda laughed, dry, sharp, hollow. "That'll take days." Thomas didn't blink. "It's already signed." Peter looked stunned. "Wait, what are you saying?" Thomas turned to him with an unflinching gaze. "I'm saying your wife has been mentally and physically abusing your mother. For years. And now, your daughter is a witness." Amanda's face turned to stone. "She's lying. I've done everything for that woman. She's sick, confused. Probably, you told someone on the phone she was useless and that she wouldn't leave this house alive." The silence turned heavy. Deadly. Peter looked at her, hard now. Something breaking in his eyes. You said that. Amanda stared at him. Cold. Then smirked. She signed the insurance papers, didn't she? And, just like that, it cracked. The glass bubble Amanda had built around her world, made of lies and manipulation and carefully choreographed kindness, shattered. Peter looked like he'd been punched. Jesus Christ, Amanda, Thomas stepped forward. I'm going to ask you legally to step away from Evelyn. Amanda's lip curled. She's mine. No, I said quietly. I'm me. I don't belong to you. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't scream. But it was the first time I had spoken to her with no tremor. No apology. And it hit her harder than a slap. Peter stood beside Thomas. Not beside Amanda. And in that moment, the first door opened. Not the physical one. The one inside my ribs. The one that had been shut since James died. It creaked gently as light started to pour in. That night, Amanda was removed from the house. She didn't go quietly. She screamed, threatened, cried, accused. She called me ungrateful, called Peter spineless, told Ellie she'd regret it. But Ellie didn't cry. She stood by me, small, brave, silent, just like I had taught her, and just like she had unknowingly taught me. After it was over, Peter sat with me in the kitchen. He couldn't look me in the eyes. I didn't know, he whispered. I should have. I reached for his hand, not with anger. Not even blame. Just sadness. I stopped asking you to see, I said. A long time ago. He nodded, broken. I want. It's strange, the first time I walked up the stairs without permission, my legs didn't feel like mine. The door creaked open at the top like it hadn't been touched in decades, even though I'd stood behind it just last night, locked in like a prisoner. This time, it was my hand that turned the knob. And it opened for me. The living room was full of sunlight. I'd forgotten how light looked on hardwood floors. I took slow steps in, like I was learning to walk again. My fingers brushed over the couch cushions, the ones Amanda always fluffed with obsessive precision. I let one fall crookedly out of place. It felt like a revolution. Peter sat on the arm of the couch, quiet, watching. I could see the guilt in every corner of his face, but I also saw something I hadn't in years, shame. Not at me, at himself. I don't know how I missed it, he said softly. I did, but I let him sit in that silence. Some truths don't need to be answered, only felt. Later, I walked upstairs. Not to Ellie's room, not yet. I passed it and kept going until I reached the spare bedroom. The one Amanda always said was too dusty for me. I opened the door, and for the first time in years, I saw a window. I stood there for what felt like an eternity. The light poured in golden, almost holy, and for a moment, I simply breathed. No cold concrete. No mold. No shadows. Just air. And space. And a view of the sky. There was a dresser in the corner. Old. Worn. Covered in dust. Inside, I found my old nightgown, the blue one with the lace trim, the one James gave me for our anniversary before he died. Amanda told me she'd thrown it out. But she hadn't. She'd buried it. Hidden it. Like she'd done to me. That night, I wore it to bed. Not in the basement. Not on a cot. But on a real mattress with real sheets and a window cracked open beside me. And for the first time in what felt like centuries, I dreamed. Not of pain, but of James. Of Ellie's laugh. Of a life I thought had ended. When I woke, the night light Ellie had given me was still glowing beside the bed. And in the distance, I heard birds. Not sirens. Not screams. Birds. It was Sunday morning. Soft light drifted through the blinds, brushing the dresser and the worn pages of my journal like a blessing. I was sitting with my tea, real tea, strong and hot, not the watered-down insults Amanda used to brew, when I heard Ellie's small feet running down the hallway. Her voice came next. Grandma, Grandma. She burst into the room, her hair wild. eyes wide with something between wonder and worry. She held something in her hand, a letter, the letter I had hidden in her backpack. She clutched it like a secret too big for her little fists. "I found this," she said, "in the side of my bag. Did you put it there?" I froze. Part of me wanted to deny it, to protect her still, but that time had passed. Amanda was gone. Truth had to live now. "Yes, sweetheart," I said softly. "I wrote it in case I couldn't tell you myself." Ellie climbed onto the bed, curling into my side. "Why did you think you wouldn't be here?" I looked at her. Really looked. Her face was too young for so much understanding. But it was there behind her eyes. She knew what she'd seen, what she'd heard, what she had survived. I was scared, I whispered, that she might hurt me so badly I wouldn't be able to tell you everything. And I needed you to know it wasn't your fault. None of it. Ellie didn't cry. She just leaned her head on my shoulder. "I knew you were hurting," she said. "But I didn't know how to say it. I just kept drawing." "You did say it," I told her. "You said it with every picture you slid under my door. Every smile you gave me when she wasn't watching. You kept me alive." We sat there for a long time, the letters still between us. Then Ellie asked quietly, "Is she coming back?" I thought about it. No, not to this house. But what if she tries? I looked her in the eye. "She won't get near you. I promise." Ellie reached into her pocket and pulled out the pink flashlight. She placed it on the nightstand beside my tea. "You can keep it forever now," she said. That afternoon, Peter called the therapist. For Ellie. For himself. For me. We all sat in the living room, awkward, quiet, but together. He looked me in the eye and said, "We're going to fix what she broke." And, for the first time, I believed him. That night, I tucked Ellie into bed. She didn't ask for stories. She just asked if I'd be there in the morning. And I said, "Always." Then I left the door open a crack. Not for fear, but for light. The morning felt different. Not because of the weather, though the sky was clear, a soft golden blue that wrapped the house in warmth, but because for the first time in years, I wasn't waking up into survival. I was waking into freedom. No locks. No yelling. No footsteps above my head. Only silence. And the smell of toast from downstairs. And Ellie's laughter floating up like wind chimes in summer. I stood in front of the mirror. My face looked older than I remembered, but not worn down. Weathered. Like the bark of a tree that survived every storm and still stands rooted. Amanda had tried to make me forget who I was. But the woman in the mirror, she had survived. Not just endured. Survived. That morning, Thomas returned. He brought papers thick, stamped, real. Restraining orders. Witness reports. Documents that proved I wasn't crazy. That Amanda had done what she did. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I looked at Peter. Then at Ellie. And I said, yes. Because healing is not pretending something didn't happen. It's naming it. And then, finally, letting it go. Later that day, we stepped outside, all three of us. Peter drove us to the park. Ellie packed a blanket. I packed my journal and wore my blue nightgown under a cardigan. People smiled at us like we were just another family. And, for the first time, we almost were. Ellie chased birds. Peter sat beside me on the bench. And I closed my eyes under the sun. It felt like James was there, in the breeze, in the warmth on my skin, in the way Ellie laughed and laughed and laughed. I reached into my bag and pulled out the last thing I hadn't let go of, the belt. The one Amanda had wrapped in tissue and given me for my birthday before using it to beat me until I bled. I carried it here for one reason: to say goodbye. I stood up, walked to the nearest trash bin, and dropped it in without a second thought. No ceremony. No drama. Just release. Because that's what healing looks like, too. Back on the bench, Peter took my hand. "I wish I could undo it all," he said. "You can't," I replied. "But you can help build what comes next." That night, Ellie crawled into my bed with a book and fell asleep on my arm. Peter stayed downstairs reading. And I sat by the window, looking out, not in. No more waiting. No more wondering who I'd be if Amanda hadn't come into my life. Because the answer was right here. I am Evelyn Harper. Wife. Mother. Grandmother. Survivor. Witness. Warrior. And now? I am free.